That was scary. Okay, what we're going to do today are two things. We're going to paint a base coat on our entire mask over all the details. We'll add details next week. And we're also going to work on the eyes. So if you remember, our eyes are cut away. They're cut out. And in the picture, we drew eyes on there because let's face it, those eyes are going to dramatically affect the way our mask looks. So we're going to do the eyes on paper and we'll tape them or glue them behind the sockets that are on our mask. And that way you'll get that full effect. Of course, if you want to leave the eyes out completely because you're going to wear the mask, that's your option too. So I will work on two things today. First, we're going to paint a base coat over the whole thing, and it might need 2 layers. And second, we're going to work on the eyes. Okay, the first thing to decide when you start painting is go back to your resource. When we do these sketches or drawings, a lot of times things will change in the process, and that's okay. That's part of the artistic process, is learning things, making decisions, and changing when appropriate. So if your design is not the color you wanted, or you want to change something like that, that's fine. These don't have to match exactly, but you need to always try to have some kind of plan to get you started. When you start painting, you're going to do one basic color over the whole entire thing. So I need to decide on a basic color. Well, I'm thinking pink. I do have browns in here, and I've got some purples in here, and I definitely have black in here. But you need to remember that it's easier to cover a light color than it is a dark color. If I paint the whole mask black and then try to paint white on top of it, that's going to be really hard, and I'm going to have to paint multiple layers of white. If I do it this light pink, I can always put the darker colors on top, so that's going to be a little bit better for me. So I'm going to use this light pink color, and I'm going to paint everything. The mouth, the nose, everything on there, one basic color. So I'm going to give you some of these tempera paints. The tempera paints that I have are a little bit better to paint with. I'm going to get you these. I buy them at Lakeshore, and they have no soap in them. You know, we've talked about this before. The Crayola that we buy here at school is washable paint, and it is thinned out with a little bit of soap so that you don't really get a good solid color. So I'm going to get you a whole set of these tempera paints, same paint, but it just doesn't have any soap in it. So it's going to be a little bit harder to get out of your brush, but that's okay. Tempera paint is still really easy to get out, especially if you use soap. So we'll use this. If I make pink, of course, I'm going to mix a little bit white and red together to get my pink. Just as a reminder, you always start with the lightest color and add small bits of the darker color to get the desired color that you want, because darker colors will pretty much empower those lighter colors. So I'm going to mix up an appropriate pink and just cover that whole entire mask everywhere on there. Okay, I'm going to start with my paint palette that I can throw away, so that'll be a little bit easier. I'll start with the lighter color. Here's the trick. You want to mix enough that you can completely cover that mask with, because remember, we are not perfect, and so to get the same exact color 2 days in a row is going to be super hard. So you can see how much white I used compared to the red. And I'm just going to mix it all up on this palette and see if it's a pink that I'm happy with. I can always make it darker by adding a little bit more of the darker color. So if you have light blue as your base, then that's great. If you have green as your base, that's great. You might want to use a light green, because you can always add some dark greens in those shadows. So there we go. And I'm just going to go back and look at my picture and see what I think. That's not bad. Okay, so I'm going to use that one right there the way it is. And you're going to paint everything. The reason being, a lot of times when you just paint sections of your mask, you end up leaving little spaces here and there that are not painted. And you see that newspaper and paper mache. We want to cover everything up. We want it all to have a finished look. So I'm going to paint the edges first, all the way around. Remember, this is tempera paint. It's not acrylic, so it does wash off. And I'm just going to go all around the whole mask and paint everything up. That way, if I do the edges first, then I can actually lay it down on the newspaper while I do the top part, and I don't have to worry about sticking my hand in all that messy paint. So I'm getting a little bit around the back, which is not a bad idea, all the way around. In some cases, like if you have a completely white mask, you may need 2 coats. And I'm thinking this pink even may need 2 coats because I can see a little bit of the newspaper underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and paint it and get in all those little nooks and crannies really good. And then I'm going to step back and see if it needs another coat of the pink. And I'll just stick another coat on there. This is going to have to completely dry before you start painting details. You can always add another coat of the same color on there. I'm going to hold him by his nose. How's that? So I could put another layer of pink on top of the pink, but I'm not going to want to start putting those white teeth onto the pink while the pink is still wet, because then I'm going to have light pink teeth, and that's not at all what I want. All right, so I've got it painted all the way around the edges. Now I can set him down on the newspaper and I can just go to town on his face. All right, so we'll paint that all up. Get 2 coats on there if you feel like you need it, and that'll give you a good solid base. And then we'll start working on the details. These are getting to a finishing point. That's really nice. All right, have fun. Be creative. Okay, so while that base coat is drying, I'm going to work on the eyes. And you're going to get a little handout like this one. So I took the mask and I just put a piece of paper behind it and I traced it. And then I made it just a smidge larger because we don't want those lines showing up in the eye holes. So it is a little bit larger than that expected. So then go back and look at your eyes. I can see that I've got a circle, so I'm going to bring it all the way out to the edges with a nice circle. And then I've got that vertical slit in there. And I'm going to keep this one pretty simple for myself. And I'm going to color this with marker. You can also see that I have reddened it a little bit around the edges. I know some of you put some big time blood shots in there and stuff too. It's outlined and colored yellow in there, and I think that's going to be really good. And then when I get finished with it, after I finish painting, so I'm going to hold on to this for a while, I'm going to cut on this dotted line so that I have extra paper to glue behind the mask. If I just cut it right here along the edge, then I have nothing left to attach to the mask and glue down. So I'm going to leave this extra ½ inch all the way around, and that's where I'll end up cutting. All right, so don't worry about cutting it out or gluing it onto the mask today, because you really want to do that after you finish painting so you don't get paint all over it. But let's at least get those drawn in there, outlined, and colored just the way you want them. All right, so you've done your base coat on your mask, and you've got your eyeballs all ready to go. You might even want to write your name on there so that we don't get them all mixed up. Have fun. Bye-bye.